In the modern world, peace has become fragile, not because life is harsher than before, but because the mind is constantly exposed. Notifications arrive without warning, opinions surround you, expectations press in quietly until your inner space feels crowded and restless. Many people live as if their emotional state is permanently under threat, reacting to events rather than directing themselves through them. They wake up already tense, not from physical labor, but from mental noise. Yet there is a form of strength that remains untouched by chaos, a calm that does not depend on circumstances, a steadiness that holds firm even when pressure builds. This strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not require dominance over others. It begins inwardly where control truly resides. This is the foundation of Stoicism. The Stoics did not promise comfort. They did not offer escape from difficulty. Instead, they offered mastery. Mastery of perception, mastery of reaction, mastery of inner life. Among them, Epictetus stands as one of the clearest voices of this discipline. Born into slavery, deprived of external freedom, he discovered something deeper. He discovered that no one can imprison a disciplined mind. His teachings were not abstract philosophy. They were practical instructions for living with dignity in an unpredictable world. He taught that suffering does not come from events themselves, but from the way the mind interprets them. Change the interpretation, and you change the experience of life. Today, we begin a journey through 10 Stoic shields. These are not motivational slogans. They are mental structures. Each one is designed to protect your inner stability and strengthen your emotional independence. Together, they form a system of inner control that allows you to move through life without being constantly shaken. As we move forward, understand this clearly. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about understanding emotion so deeply that it no longer dominates you. It is not about becoming detached from life. It is about engaging with life without surrendering your peace. Life will still challenge you. People will still disappoint you. Loss will still occur. But with proper training, these experiences no longer dictate your inner state. You remain grounded. You remain composed. You remain whole. This is what it means to be untouchable. Now, let us begin with the first and most essential Stoic shield. Without it, every other discipline collapses. With it, clarity begins. Stoic Shield 1. Separate what you control from what you do not imagine. A man standing in a violent storm, shouting at the sky, demanding the wind stop. His effort is real. His frustration is real. But his struggle is useless. The storm does not listen. The wind does not negotiate. And the more he resists, the more exhausted he becomes. This is how most inner suffering is created. People argue with reality. They fight outcomes. They cling to expectations. They demand that others behave differently. They replay the past. They attempt to control what was never theirs to command. And when reality refuses, frustration turns into anxiety, anger, and despair. Epictetus taught a distinction so simple that it is often underestimated, yet so powerful that it can transform an entire life. Some things are within your control. Some things are not. Wisdom begins when you stop confusing the two. What is within your control is limited, but it is absolute. Your judgments, your values, your choices, your effort, your response to events. These belong to you fully. No one can take them unless you give them away. What is not within your control includes the opinions of others, the behavior of people, the outcome of your actions, your reputation, your health, and external circumstances. You may influence some of these, but you never own them. Most emotional suffering comes from placing your peace in the wrong category. When you tie your happiness to outcomes, you become anxious. When you tie your self-worth to approval, you become dependent. When you try to control other people, you become frustrated. When you resist what has already happened, you become trapped in the past. The Stoic releases this burden. This does not mean inaction. It means precision. When something is within your control, you act with full commitment. You prepare, you improve, you choose according to reason and principle. But when something is not within your control, you release it completely, without resentment. This release is not defeat. It is alignment. Consider criticism. When someone judges you harshly, most people react instantly. Anger arises, shame follows, the mind spirals. But the Stoic pauses and asks a single question. Is their opinion within my control? The answer is no. Then he asks another. Is my character within my control? The answer is yes. If the criticism contains truth, he uses it to improve. If it does not, he discards it. In both cases, his peace remains intact. This distinction also transforms how failure is experienced. When success is measured only by results, failure feels personal. When success is measured by effort and integrity, failure becomes feedback. The Stoic does not say, I failed. He says, I acted with discipline and the result was not mine to decide. This mindset removes fear. Fear thrives where control is uncertain. When you stop demanding certainty from the external world, fear loses its leverage. Epictetus reminded his students that people are not disturbed by events, but by the judgments they form about them. The event itself is neutral. The suffering comes from resistance. By changing the judgment, the emotional response changes as well. To practice this shield daily, begin with awareness. Throughout your day, notice where your tension originates. When stress arises, pause and ask, is this within my control? If it is, act calmly and deliberately. If it is not, release it consciously. This practice feels unnatural at first. The mind is accustomed to clinging, but repetition builds strength. Over time, you stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed. Your attention returns to what truly belongs to you. As this shield strengthens, something subtle but profound happens. External events lose their authority. You stop being pulled in every direction. You become centered, grounded, stable. You are no longer at war with life. You are aligned with it. This is the first Stoic shield, the foundation of inner control. Without it, the mind remains scattered. With it, clarity emerges. Stoic shield 2. Anchor your life to affirm. Purpose. A person without purpose is easily shaken, not because they lack intelligence or ability, but because their direction is unclear. When life applies pressure, uncertainty multiplies it. Every setback feels heavier. Every criticism cuts deeper. Every delay creates doubt. Without a firm purpose, the mind searches constantly for reassurance from the outside world, and the outside world is unreliable. Epictetus understood this deeply. He taught that when a person does not know what they stand for, they become vulnerable to everything they encounter. Praise inflates them. Blame diminishes them. Success excites them briefly. Failure devastates them completely. Their inner state rises and falls according to forces they cannot control. A firm purpose changes this. Purpose is not the same as ambition. Ambition seeks achievement. Purpose governs behavior. Ambition asks what you want to gain. Purpose asks who you are becoming. When your identity is tied only to results, you become fragile. When your identity is tied to principles, you become resilient. This is why Stoicism emphasizes purpose so strongly, not as a motivational concept, but as an anchor for the soul. A firm purpose provides direction when emotions fluctuate. It gives stability when circumstances shift. It keeps the mind oriented even when clarity is temporarily lost. Imagine a ship at sea. Without an anchor, even calm waters cause drift. With an anchor, the ship holds its position despite changing tides. Purpose functions the same way in the inner life. It does not eliminate movement, but it prevents aimlessness. Epictetus taught that difficulties reveal character. This does not mean hardship is desirable. It means hardship exposes what is real. When pressure arrives, superficial goals collapse. Only deeply rooted values remain. A firm purpose ensures that when challenges appear, you do not lose yourself. To discover purpose, you must begin with honest reflection. This process cannot be rushed. It requires asking uncomfortable questions. What truly matters to you beyond comfort and approval? What values you would defend even if no one rewarded you for them? What kind of person you aim to be when no one is watching? Many people avoid these questions because they reveal contradictions. They expose gaps between how one lives and what one claims to value. But Stoicism does not fear truth. It builds strength upon it. Purpose does not need to be grand or dramatic. Stoic purpose is often quiet. It may be a commitment to integrity, self-discipline, wisdom, service, or inner mastery. What matters is not how impressive it sounds, but how consistently it guides your actions. Once identified, purpose must be protected. A purpose that exists only as an idea is fragile. It must be reinforced through behavior. Every decision either strengthens it or weakens it. There is no neutrality. Small daily choices shape character more than rare moments of inspiration. Epictetus emphasized consistency. He understood that discipline is built through repetition. A firm purpose survives not because it is exciting, but because it is practiced even when motivation fades. This is how identity is formed. Consider a craftsman devoted to his work. He does not improve through applause. He improves through attention. He refines his skill daily. Criticism does not distract him. Praise does not inflate him. His focus is inward, directed toward excellence itself. This same discipline applies to life. When your purpose is clear, distractions lose their grip. You stop chasing every opportunity. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop relying on external validation to confirm your worth. Your energy becomes focused. Purpose also provides endurance. Life inevitably brings moments of fatigue and doubt. Without purpose, these moments feel unbearable. With purpose, they feel temporary. You may feel tired, but you do not feel lost. Epictetus reminded his students that freedom comes from living according to reason. Purpose is reason applied to life direction. It bridges philosophy and action. Without purpose, Stoicism remains theory. With purpose, it becomes a lived experience. Purpose also simplifies decision-making. When faced with choices, instead of asking what is easiest or most popular, you ask what aligns with your values. This clarity reduces internal conflict. The mind no longer argues with itself constantly. When criticism arrives, a person without purpose absorbs it emotionally. A person with purpose evaluates it rationally. When temptation appears, a person without purpose follows impulse. A person with purpose pauses and chooses deliberately. This does not eliminate struggle, it gives struggle meaning. A firm purpose also stabilizes emotion. When your self-worth is tied to who you are becoming rather than what you achieve, external fluctuations matter less. Success does not inflate you. Failure does not destroy you. You remain balanced. Epictetus warned against living reactively. A reactive life is shaped by circumstance rather than intention. Purpose transforms reaction into direction. It allows you to move forward even when conditions are imperfect. To cultivate this shield daily, begin with written reflection. Put your principles into words, not vague, aspirations, but clear commitments. Identify behaviors that align with those commitments, then practice them consistently. This practice will not feel natural at first. You will falter, you will contradict yourself. Stoicism does not demand perfection, it demands correction. Each correction strengthens resolve. Over time, purpose becomes internalized. It no longer feels forced, it becomes an identity. You begin to act from principle automatically. External pressure loses its influence. As this shield strengthens, life feels less chaotic. You no longer feel pulled in opposing directions. Your mind becomes quieter. Your actions become deliberate. Your confidence becomes grounded. Purpose does not guarantee happiness. It guarantees coherence, and coherence creates peace. This is why the purpose is a shield. It absorbs shock. It stabilizes emotion. It prevents the mind from scattering under pressure. It gives you something solid to stand on when uncertainty rises. With a firm purpose, the world becomes less threatening. You no longer need to control everything because you know what you are responsible for. You are responsible for living according to your principles. And that is enough. Stoic Shield 3. Guard your mind as you would a fortress. Most people believe their problems come from the outside world, from difficult people, from unfair events, from constant pressure. But Epictetus taught something far more unsettling and far more empowering. The greatest threat to your peace does not live outside you. It lives in the unguarded mind. Imagine a city without walls. Anyone can enter. Anyone can disrupt. Anyone can take what matters. This is how many people treat their thoughts. Every opinion is allowed in. Every headline is absorbed. Every insult is replayed. And slowly, without realizing it, the mind becomes crowded, restless, and weak. The Stoic understands that freedom begins with mental discipline. Lose control of your thoughts, and no amount of external success will save you. Guard your mind well, and even harsh circumstances cannot dominate you. This shield is about ownership, ownership of attention, ownership of interpretation, ownership of inner dialogue. Your emotions do not appear randomly. They arise from judgments. A word only hurts because you decide it carries meaning. An event only frightens you because you interpret it as a threat. This realization does not deny emotion. It reveals its origin. Epictetus taught that when you believe impressions without examination, you surrender control. The Stoic pauses before accepting any impression. He asks whether it is accurate, useful, and aligned with reason. Guarding the mind does not mean suppressing emotion. Suppression creates pressure. Awareness creates clarity. The Stoic does not pretend he feels nothing. He observes what he feels without being ruled by it. When anger arises, instead of acting, he examines it. What belief produced this reaction? Was it an expectation of fairness, a desire for respect, a need for control? By identifying the belief, he weakens the emotion. This is how mastery begins. Most people react automatically. Someone speaks sharply and anger explodes. Something goes wrong and panic follows. The Stoic inserts a pause. That pause is where freedom lives. Between stimulus and response, there is a moment of choice. Most people rush past it. The Stoic learns to inhabit it. At first, this pause feels unnatural. The mind is accustomed to immediate reaction. But with repetition, the pause becomes instinctive. You stop reacting automatically. You begin responding deliberately. Guarding the mind also means refusing unnecessary mental clutter. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every worry deserves attention. Not every impulse deserves action. Fear often comes from imagined futures. Regret comes from relived pasts. The Stoic anchors himself in the present moment. because the present is where control exists. Anxiety pulls the mind forward, shame pulls it backward, awareness returns it home. Epictetus emphasized daily mental training. Just as the body weakens without exercise, the mind deteriorates without discipline. This training does not require isolation or extremes. It requires consistency. At the beginning of the day, prepare the mind. Remind yourself that you may encounter impatience, ignorance, and selfishness, not to become bitter, but to remain steady. When difficulty appears, it no longer shocks you. At the end of the day, review your conduct, not with harsh judgment, but with honesty. Where did you lose control? Where did you remain calm? What can be improved tomorrow? This practice strengthens awareness without feeding self-contempt. Another element of guarding the mind is choosing influences carefully. The people you listen to, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain all shape your thinking. Stoicism does not demand withdrawal from society, but it demands discernment. If you constantly expose yourself to outrage, comparison, and negativity, your mind absorbs it. If you expose yourself to thoughtful dialogue, meaningful work, and disciplined reflection, your mind strengthens. This is not to avoid discomfort. It is the avoidance of poison. The Stoic also guards his inner speech. The way you talk to yourself shapes your perception. Harsh self-talk weakens resolve. Clear, rational inner dialogue builds resilience. Instead of saying you cannot handle something, you say it is difficult but manageable. Instead of labeling yourself as flawed, you recognize a behavior that can be corrected. Language influences emotion. Emotion influences action. Epictetus taught that no one can harm you without your consent. This does not mean harm does not occur. It means lasting disturbance requires your agreement. When you withdraw that agreement, external events lose leverage. Guarding the mind also means limiting rumination. Replaying events endlessly does not produce clarity. It produces exhaustion. The Stoic acknowledges what happened, extracts the lesson, and moves forward. This discipline becomes especially powerful in moments of insult or disrespect. Instead of replaying the offense, the Stoic asks whether the words alter his character. If they do not, he releases them. This does not make him passive. It makes him unshakable. As this shield strengthens, you begin to notice change. Emotional reactions soften. Thought patterns slow. You feel space between yourself and events. This space is not empty. It is freedom. You are no longer dragged by every impression. You are no longer enslaved by every emotion. You choose what enters your mind and how long it stays. Guarding the mind is a lifelong practice. Some days you succeed, some days you fail. Stoicism does not demand perfection. It demands commitment. Each time you pause instead of react, you reinforce this shield. Each time you question a judgment, you strengthen clarity. Each time you choose awareness, you reclaim control. Over time, the mind becomes quieter, not empty but ordered, not numb but steady. External chaos continues, but it no longer penetrates deeply. This is the third Stoic shield, the discipline that protects your inner world from constant invasion, the foundation of emotional independence. When the mind is guarded, peace becomes durable. Stoic Shield 4. Transform offense into inner strength. Few things disturb the human mind faster than offense. A careless remark, a dismissive tone, a judgment that feels unfair. In an instant, calm disappears and emotion takes control. Thoughts race, the body tightens. The event replays again and again. Offense feels personal, as though something essential has been threatened. And because it feels personal, it often feels justified. Epictetus understood this weakness well. He taught that offense is not caused by what is said or done, but by the meaning the mind assigns to it. This idea is difficult to accept because it removes the illusion that others control our inner state. But it also restores something far more valuable: responsibility. Offense does not live in another person. It lives in interpretation. This does not mean the other person acted wisely or kindly. Stoicism does not deny poor behavior. It simply refuses to let that behavior dominate the inner world. The Stoic understands that surrendering emotional control is always a choice. Even when the emotion feels automatic, most people react immediately when offended. They defend themselves, they argue, they withdraw, they rehearse the moment repeatedly, each time reinforcing the emotional charge. This reaction feels natural, but it creates dependency. The offender now controls your mood. Their words occupy your thoughts. Their presence lingers long after the moment has passed. The Stoic chooses a different path. He pauses. That pause changes everything. Instead of asking how someone could act that way, he asks what judgment arose within him. Was there an expectation of respect? A desire for approval? A belief that others must behave fairly? When this expectation is revealed, the offense begins to lose power. Epictetus taught that people act according to what seems right to them. This does not excuse harmful actions, but it explains them. Understanding replaces outrage with clarity, and clarity restores control. Transforming offense does not mean becoming passive. Stoicism is not submission. It is strength with restraint. You can assert boundaries, you can speak firmly, you can walk away, but you do so without surrendering your composure. There is a profound difference between reacting emotionally and responding deliberately. Reaction seeks relief. Response seeks alignment with values. The Stoic trains himself to view offense as training material. Each irritation becomes an opportunity to practice discipline. Just as resistance strengthens muscle, difficulty strengthens character when met correctly. This perspective transforms daily life. Difficult people become teachers, not because their behavior is admirable, but because it tests patience. Without friction, self-mastery remains unproven. Epictetus encouraged preparation for offense, not by becoming suspicious or bitter, but by becoming ready. Expect misunderstandings, expect criticism, expect moments of disrespect. When these occur, they no longer surprise you. And what does not surprise you cannot destabilize you as easily. Another powerful Stoic tool is emotional distancing. When offense arises, observe it as if it were happening to someone else. This creates space. Space allows choice. Choice restores freedom. Instead of saying, "I am offended," the Stoic learns to say, "An impression of offense has appeared." This subtle shift prevents identification. You are no longer fused with the emotion. You are observing it. Empathy also plays a role in dissolving offense. When someone speaks harshly, consider the possibility that they are acting from insecurity, fear, frustration, or ignorance. This does not justify the behavior. It contextualizes it, and context reduces emotional intensity. The Stoic asks not, "How can I hurt them back?" but "How can I remain consistent with my principles?" Forgiveness is another essential discipline, not as moral superiority, but as self-protection. Resentment poisons the mind. It keeps the past alive. It drains energy needed for growth. Forgiveness releases the burden. Epictetus warned that anger harms the one who carries it more than the one who caused it. The offense may last seconds. The resentment can last years. The Stoic refuses this cost. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean trusting blindly. It means choosing not to relive the injury. It means refusing to allow another person's actions to define your emotional state. As this shield strengthens, you notice change. Offense arises less frequently. When it does arise, it fades faster. You feel less compelled to defend your ego. You stop proving yourself in unnecessary conflicts. Your dignity becomes quiet, solid, independent of validation. People may still criticize you. They may still misunderstand you. They may still behave poorly, but their actions no longer penetrate deeply. You feel less reactive, more composed, more grounded. This is what it means to be untouchable, not unreachable, but unprovoked. Transforming offense is not about emotional numbness. It is about emotional sovereignty. It is about choosing inner strength over momentary satisfaction. This shield protects peace in a world full of friction. It allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. When offense loses power, clarity returns, and with clarity, freedom expands. Stoic Shield 5. Dissolve fear and shame. Through clear judgment, fear and shame quietly govern more lives than violence or poverty ever could. They do not shout. They whisper. They convince the mind to hesitate, to hide, to shrink back from its own potential. Fear warns you of imagined futures. Shame chains you to remembered pasts. Together they narrow the inner world until life feels smaller than it truly is. Epictetus understood these forces deeply. He taught that fear and shame are not born from events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to those events. Remove the judgment and the emotion weakens. Change the meaning and the grip loosens. This is not denial, it is clear. Fear often disguises itself as caution, but most fear does not protect. It restricts. It prevents action long before danger appears. The Stoic does not attempt to eliminate fear entirely. He seeks to understand it. When fear arises, the Stoic asks a precise question. What exactly am I afraid of? Not vaguely, not emotionally, but clearly. Fear loses power when it is defined. Often what appears to be fear of failure is actually fear of judgment. Fear of loss is often fear of discomfort. Fear of rejection is often fear of wounded pride. By naming fear accurately, illusion dissolves. Epictetus taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The mind projects future catastrophes that rarely arrive. It rehearses embarrassment. It predicts disaster. But the present moment where life actually happens is often manageable. The Stoic anchors himself in the present. He reminds himself that fear lives in anticipation, not in action. When action begins, fear weakens. This is why Stoicism emphasizes courage as a practice rather than a trait. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is a movement despite fear. Each deliberate action taken in the presence of fear diminishes its authority. Avoidance strengthens fear. Engagement weakens it. Shame operates differently. While fear looks forward, shame looks backward. It attaches identity to past actions. It whispers that mistakes define worth. It convinces the mind that growth is impossible because the past cannot be changed. Epictetus rejected this belief entirely. He taught that character is shaped by present choice, not past error. A mistake does not define a person unless it is repeated without reflection. The Stoic response to shame is neither denial nor self-punishment. It is an examination. When shame surfaces, the Stoic asks what lesson it contains, what led to the error, what belief was mistaken, what behavior can be corrected. Once the lesson is extracted, the emotion has served its purpose. There is no need to continue carrying it. Self-forgiveness is essential in this process. Many people understand forgiveness intellectually, but reserve it only for others. Stoicism insists that self-forgiveness is required for growth. Without it, the mind remains trapped. Forgiving yourself does not mean excusing harmful behavior. It means acknowledging it, learning from it, and releasing it. Holding on to shame does not improve character. It freezes it. Another Stoic discipline is perspective. Ask whether this fear or shame will matter in 5 years. Ask whether it defines your entire life or merely one moment. Perspective restores proportion. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Epictetus reminded his students that freedom begins when you no longer fear what you cannot control. You cannot control how everyone perceives you. You cannot control how every action is remembered. You can control how you act now. Fear and shame also weaken when shared wisely. Stoicism values community and mentorship. Speaking honestly with trusted individuals often reveals that what feels isolating is deeply human. Many carry the same fears quietly. To practice this shield daily, begin by observing hesitation. Where do you delay action? Where do you avoid discomfort? Where do you replay past mistakes? These are signals of fear and shame at work. Then apply reason. Examine the fear, extract the lesson from the shame. Act in alignment with values rather than emotion. Over time, fear becomes information rather than a command. Shame becomes memory rather than identity. The mind regains flexibility. This does not make life painless. It makes it navigable. As this shield strengthens, you notice greater boldness in your actions. Not recklessness, but confidence. You speak more honestly. You try more often. You recover faster from setbacks. Fear no longer decides your limits. Shame no longer defines your worth. This is the Stoic path to courage, a quiet, rational, enduring, Stoic shield. 6. Prepare for hardship before it appears. Most people believe that suffering comes from hardship itself, but Epictetus understood something far more precise. Suffering often comes from surprise, from the shock of unmet expectations, from believing that life should move smoothly and feeling betrayed when it does not. When difficulty arrives unexpectedly, the mind resists, and resistance multiplies pain. The Stoic prepares long before the storm arrives. This preparation is not pessimism. It is realism. Life is not designed to protect comfort. It is designed to test character. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Effort will not always be rewarded. Bodies weaken. Circumstances change. When these truths are ignored, every obstacle feels like an injustice. Epictetus taught that tranquility comes not from avoiding hardship, but from anticipating it wisely. When you expect challenges, they lose the power of surprise. And what does not surprise you does not destabilize you as deeply. Imagine walking a path you know is uneven. You step carefully, you adjust naturally, but if you expect smooth ground and encounter rocks, frustration rises immediately. The terrain did not change. Your expectation did. Stoicism trains expectation. This discipline is known as the premeditation of difficulty. It is the practice of calmly imagining potential obstacles before they occur. Not to dwell in negativity, but to build readiness. The Stoic briefly considers what could go wrong, then prepares his response. Before a difficult conversation, he considers resistance. Before an important effort, he considers delay. Before placing trust, he considers disappointment. By doing so, he strengthens composure. This practice reduces emotional shock. When hardship appears, the Stoic does not say, "This should not be happening." He says, "This is one of the things I prepared for." That shift preserves dignity. Anticipation also sharpens response. When you have already imagined difficulty, you have already decided how to act. You are less likely to react impulsively. You respond with intention. This is especially powerful in emotionally charged situations. Criticism, conflict, loss, and failure overwhelm people because they have never rehearsed calm. The Stoic rehearses inwardly. Epictetus believed that adversity reveals training. Just as an athlete does not train during competition, the mind must be trained before a challenge arrives. Preparation is training. This does not mean constant worry. Stoicism rejects obsessive anxiety. Anticipation is brief, controlled, and purposeful. Once preparation is complete, attention returns to the present moment. Another benefit of this shield is flexibility. When you anticipate obstacles, you become less rigid. You accept that plans may change. Rigid expectations create suffering. Flexible expectations create adaptability. Adaptability is strength. Anticipation also reduces fear. Fear thrives on uncertainty. When you calmly consider possible outcomes, uncertainty shrinks. Even if the outcome is undesirable, knowing you can endure it restores confidence. Epictetus taught that true security does not come from external stability. It comes from inner readiness. When you are prepared to face discomfort, discomfort loses its authority. This shield also builds patience. When you expect delay, delay does not provoke anger. When you expect resistance, resistance does not feel personal. You move forward steadily. To practice this discipline, begin each day with a quiet reminder. Today may bring difficulty. Today may test patience. Today may challenge expectations. None of this is abnormal. Decide in advance to respond with reason. This preparation should be gentle, not heavy. You are not predicting disaster. You are acknowledging reality. Anticipating hardship also prevents entitlement. Many people suffer because they believe effort guarantees reward. Stoicism teaches effort and guarantees only effort. Outcomes remain uncertain. When you release entitlement, resentment fades. Epictetus warned against demanding that life be easy. Demands create frustration. Acceptance creates endurance. As this shield strengthens, you notice change. When obstacles appear, you feel less shock, less anger, less self-pity. You conserve emotional energy. This does not make life easier. It makes you stronger. Anticipation also encourages humility. You accept that you are not immune to struggle. This humility prevents arrogance during success and despair during failure. You remain balanced. Stoicism does not teach withdrawal from ambition. It teaches independence from outcomes. You still act, you still strive, but you do not stake your peace on results. When you prepare for hardship, life stops feeling hostile. It starts feeling honest. This shield trains you to walk with eyes open, to meet reality without illusion, to face challenges without collapse. Hardship will still arrive. Loss will still occur. But when it does, you will not be shaken at the core. You will recognize the moment as part of the human condition. This is inner strength, not toughness for display, but endurance rooted in clarity. Epictetus taught that nothing can happen to a person that is not part of human life. When you accept this fully, resistance fades. Preparation does not remove pain, it removes panic. As this discipline becomes habitual, you feel steadier. You stop reacting dramatically to obstacles. You stop interpreting difficulty as personal failure. You respond, you adapt, you continue. This is the Stoic shield of anticipation. It protects the mind from surprise and the heart from resentment. Stoic Shield 7 Build Unbreakable Inner Strength. Through self-mastery, inner strength is often misunderstood. Many believe it comes from dominance, force, or emotional hardness. Epictetus taught something far more enduring. True inner strength comes from mastery of the self, not the world, not other people, the self. A person who governs their inner life cannot be ruled by external events. Most people search for strength in control over outcomes. They want circumstances to cooperate. They want people to behave reasonably. They want life to be predictable. When these desires fail, frustration follows. The Stoic does not seek strength in control over the world. He seeks strength in control over response. This shift changes everything. Inner strength begins with awareness. You cannot master what you do not observe. Epictetus urged constant attention to one's inner state, not with obsession but with clarity. Emotions arise, thoughts appear, impulses surface. The Stoic watches them carefully. Awareness creates distance. Distance creates choice. When anger rises, the Stoic does not immediately act. He notices it. He feels its presence without surrendering authority. This pause prevents regret. It preserves dignity. Self-mastery does not mean emotional numbness. It means emotional regulation. The Stoic experiences emotion fully, but does not allow it to dictate action. This discipline is demanding, but it is liberating. Consider how often impulse leads to consequences. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in fear, actions taken for approval. Each one weakens inner strength. Self-mastery reverses this pattern. Epictetus taught that freedom is found not in satisfying every desire, but in mastering desire itself. A person ruled by impulse is never free. They are reactive, dependent, predictable. The Stoic trains restraint deliberately. Restraint begins with small practices, pausing before speaking, delaying gratification, choosing discomfort when it aligns with values. These small acts strengthen discipline. Discipline is not punishment, it is training. Just as the body adapts to resistance, the mind adapts to restraint. Over time, impulses lose urgency. Choices become clearer. Another aspect of inner strength is emotional endurance. Life will provoke frustration, disappointment, and loss. Without endurance, these experiences overwhelm. With endurance, they refine. Epictetus believed that adversity is not an interruption of life, but a part of it. Inner strength allows you to remain upright under pressure, not rigid, but resilient. Resilience does not mean ignoring pain. It means continuing despite it. The Stoic allows pain to exist without allowing it to dominate. Self-mastery also involves control over attention. Attention is limited. Wherever it goes, energy follows. The Stoic does not scatter attention on trivial matters. He focuses on what is essential. Many people exhaust themselves mentally by engaging in unnecessary conflict, comparison, and worry. The Stoic withdraws attention from what weakens him. This withdrawal is not avoidance. It is discipline. Epictetus reminded his students that you become the servant of whatever you chase. When you chase approval, you become dependent. When you chase pleasure, you become restless. When you chase control, you become anxious. Self-mastery redirects effort inward. Another pillar of inner strength is consistency. Strength is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in routine. Daily choices compound. Character forms quietly. The Stoic understands that small failures repeatedly weaken discipline. Small victories repeatedly strengthen it. He does not underestimate minor actions. Inner strength also requires acceptance of vulnerability. Pretending to be invulnerable creates brittleness. Acknowledging weakness allows growth. The Stoic confronts limitations honestly. Epictetus did not teach self-contempt. He taught self-responsibility. When you fail, you correct. When you succeed, you remain humble. Pride weakens discipline. Humility strengthens it. Forgiveness is also part of self-mastery. Holding grudges drains energy. Resentment clouds judgment. By releasing resentment, the Stoic preserves strength. This forgiveness applies inwardly as well. Self-hatred weakens resolve. Constructive self-correction strengthens it. The Stoic holds himself accountable without cruelty. Another essential element is patience. Inner strength grows slowly. Impatience leads to abandonment of discipline. The Stoic commits to long-term improvement. Patience allows setbacks without collapse. It allows progress without arrogance. It sustains effort. Epictetus emphasized that strength is proven through action, not intention. Good intentions without discipline lead nowhere. Discipline transforms intention into reality. This is why Stoicism values practice. Reflection without action remains a theory. Action guided by reflection becomes wisdom. As this shield strengthens, you notice changes. You react less impulsively. You recover faster from setbacks. You feel steadier under pressure. Emotional storms pass more quickly. You become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to destabilize. Inner strength also brings quiet confidence, not loud assurance, but grounded presence. You do not need to announce strength. It shows through composure. Others may not notice immediately, but over time they sense stability. They sense reliability. They sense control. This is not dominance. It is authority over oneself. Epictetus taught that no one is free who cannot govern himself. Self-mastery is freedom practiced daily. This shield protects against chaos by building order within. It does not eliminate difficulty. It equips you to meet it. When inner strength is cultivated, external turbulence loses influence. You remain standing even when circumstances shift. This is Stoic strength. Calm, enduring, unshakable. Stoic Shield 8. Master your reactions and restrain your actions. Many people believe freedom means doing whatever they feel in the moment. Epictetus taught the opposite. True freedom is the ability to pause, reflect, and choose. A person who reacts impulsively is not free. They are controlled by impulse, emotion, and circumstance. The Stoic understands that reactions reveal training, and restraint reveals strength. Life constantly provokes reactions, a sharp word, a sudden delay, an unexpected loss. These moments test discipline more than comfort ever could. The Stoic does not eliminate reaction, but he masters it. Reaction begins internally. Before words are spoken or actions taken, an impulse arises. This impulse is neutral. What follows determines character. Most people allow impulse to pass directly into action. The Stoic interrupts this chain. Epictetus taught that restraint is the guardian of dignity. Without restraint, even good intentions collapse under pressure. With restraint, even difficult situations become manageable. The first step in mastering reaction is awareness. You cannot restrain what you do not notice. The Stoic trains himself to observe the first stirring of emotion, the tightening in the chest, the quickening of breath, the urge to speak. Awareness slows the moment. That moment of slowing is power. Restraint does not mean silence in every situation. It means intentional response. Sometimes the correct action is firm speech. Sometimes it is withdrawal. Sometimes it is patience. The Stoic chooses deliberately rather than reflexively. Consider anger. Anger promises relief through expression, but expression often creates regret. The Stoic recognizes anger as a signal, not a command. He acknowledges it without obeying it. Epictetus warned that once you surrender to impulse, reason loses authority. This is why Stoicism emphasizes training before a challenge arises. Restraint practiced in calm moments strengthens restraint during conflict. Small acts of restraint build strength. Waiting before responding, choosing calm language, delaying gratification. These practices condition the mind. The Stoic also understands that words carry weight. Speech spoken in haste often cannot be retrieved. Restraining speech preserves relationships and reputation. Silence is not weakness when it protects integrity. Another domain of restraint is desire. Desire seeks immediate satisfaction. Stoicism seeks long-term coherence. Epictetus taught that unchecked desire enslaves the mind. Restraining desire restores freedom. This does not mean rejecting pleasure entirely. It means refusing dependence on pleasure. The Stoic enjoys it without clinging. He desires without surrendering control. Restraint also applies to fear-driven action. Fear urges avoidance. The Stoic examines fear before obeying it. Often fear exaggerates risk. Restraint allows courage to emerge. Mastering reactions also involves controlling attention. Where attention goes, emotion follows. The Stoic withdraws attention from provocation. He does not feed what disturbs him. This discipline is especially powerful in conflict. When others attempt to provoke, the Stoic refuses participation. He does not escalate. He does not mirror aggression. He maintains composure. Epictetus taught that you are harmed the moment you believe yourself harmed. Restraint protects against this belief. Restraint is not repression. Repression hides emotion. Restraint channels it. The Stoic allows emotion to exist while guiding behavior. Another element of restraint is patience. Impulsive action seeks immediate resolution. Patient action seeks correct resolution. Patience prevents mistakes. Stoicism teaches that delay is often wisdom. Acting too quickly increases error. Waiting allows clarity. Restraint also strengthens self-respect. Each time you resist impulse, you reinforce authority over yourself. Confidence grows quietly through discipline. The Stoic also restrains judgment. He avoids labeling events as catastrophic. He avoids exaggeration. Clear judgment calms reaction. This restraint extends to self-judgment as well. Harsh self-criticism weakens resolve. Constructive correction strengthens it. Epictetus emphasized that you cannot control initial impressions, but you can control whether you assent to them. This assent is the moment of choice. To practice this shield, begin by noticing habitual reactions. Where do you speak without thinking? Where do you act without reflection? Where do you seek immediate relief? These are opportunities for training. Then insert pause. Even a brief pause interrupts impulse. With practice, the pause lengthens naturally. Over time, reactions soften. You feel less compelled to defend, explain, or prove. You feel steadier. Mastery of reaction also protects peace. Many conflicts persist because people react repeatedly. Restraint ends cycles. This shield does not remove challenges, it transforms response. As this discipline strengthens, you become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to rush. Others may interpret restraint as calm authority. They sense stability. Epictetus taught that the strongest man is the one who governs himself. Reaction reveals weakness. Restraint reveals power. This shield builds a quiet dominance, not over others but over oneself. When reactions are mastered, life slows internally. Clarity replaces urgency. Purpose replaces impulse. This is Stoic freedom in action. Stoic Shield 9. Accept reality fully and act without resistance. Much of human suffering does not come from pain itself, but from resistance to pain, from wishing events were different, from arguing with what has already happened. Epictetus taught that resistance exhausts the mind and weakens character, while acceptance restores strength and clarity. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many believe it means giving up, becoming passive, or surrendering ambition. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Acceptance is the foundation of effective action. Until reality is accepted as it is, energy is wasted fighting shadows. When something unexpected occurs, the mind instinctively resists. It asks why this happened. It imagines alternatives. It replays the moment endlessly. This resistance multiplies suffering. The event occurs once. The resistance keeps it alive. The Stoic interrupts this cycle. Epictetus taught that events themselves are neutral. They carry no inherent judgment. The suffering comes from the story the mind tells about them. When you accept reality without judgment, you regain control over your response. Acceptance begins with recognizing what has already occurred, not approving of it, not enjoying it, simply acknowledging it. This acknowledgement frees mental energy. Imagine pushing against a locked door. The harder you push, the more tired you become. Acceptance is realizing the door is locked and choosing another path. The situation does not change immediately, but your exhaustion ends. The Stoic understands that fighting reality is futile. Reality always wins. Accepting reality does not weaken you, it aligns you with truth. Epictetus taught that the wise person desires events to happen as they do, not as he wishes them to happen. This does not mean abandoning goals. It means adjusting expectations. When expectations collide with reality, suffering arises. When expectations align with reality, peace emerges. Acceptance allows the mind to shift from complaint to problem solving. Instead of asking why something happened, the Stoic asks, what can be done next? This shift restores agency. Resistance often disguises itself as moral outrage or self-pity, but beneath it lies the same refusal to accept. The Stoic recognizes this pattern and interrupts it. Another dimension of acceptance is emotional honesty. The Stoic does not pretend events do not hurt. He allows disappointment, sadness, or frustration to exist without magnifying them. Emotion is experienced, not indulged. This discipline prevents emotional spirals. When emotion is accepted, it passes naturally. When resisted, it intensifies. Epictetus emphasized that acceptance applies to internal states as well. You accept your current level of strength, your current limitations, your current understanding. Self-rejection weakens growth. Self-acceptance enables it. Acceptance also applies to other people. Expecting others to behave according to your standards creates frustration. Accepting that people act according to their own understanding restores calm. This does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. It means recognizing what you can and cannot change. Boundaries are set without bitterness. Acceptance also reduces fear. Fear often arises from imagining that reality will be unbearable. When you accept that you can endure discomfort, fear loses power. The Stoic practices acceptance daily. When plans change, he adapts. When effort goes unrewarded, he continues. When loss occurs, he grieves without resistance. This acceptance does not eliminate pain. It eliminates additional suffering. Another Stoic discipline connected to acceptance is gratitude. Gratitude does not deny difficulty. It balances perspective. It reminds the mind that not everything is broken. Epictetus taught that focusing only on what is missing creates dissatisfaction. Noticing what remains builds resilience. Acceptance also strengthens humility. You accept that you are not in full control. This humility prevents arrogance and despair. The Stoic does not ask life to conform to desire. He conforms to the desire for life. This shift changes posture. You stop fighting. You start flowing. Acceptance also protects dignity. When you accept reality, you stop reacting emotionally to it. You respond with reason. This preserves self-respect. To practice this shield, begin by noticing resistance. Where do you replay events? Where do you complain internally? Where do you wish things were different? These are signals. Then consciously acknowledge reality. Say to yourself, "This is what happened. This is where I am. From here, what is wise?" This practice takes effort. The mind prefers fantasy, but discipline strengthens acceptance. Over time, acceptance becomes natural. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed. You focus on what can. This shift increases effectiveness. Action becomes cleaner. Emotion becomes steadier. Acceptance also deepens inner peace. Peace does not come from perfect circumstances. It comes from alignment with reality. Epictetus taught that when you accept what is, you are never at war with life. War exhausts. Alignment empowers. This shield protects against bitterness. It prevents the mind from hardening. It keeps perception clear. As acceptance strengthens, you notice less internal conflict. Decisions feel lighter. Adaptation becomes quicker. Life remains unpredictable, but you remain stable. This is Stoic acceptance. Not surrender, but strength. Not resignation, but realism. When reality is accepted fully, action becomes effective. Stoic Shield 10. Live according to nature and complete the inner fortress. The final Stoic shield brings everything together. Without it, the previous disciplines remain fragmented. With it, they become a unified way of life. Epictetus taught that true freedom is achieved when a person lives according to nature, not the uncontrolled impulses of instinct, but the rational nature that distinguishes human beings. To live according to nature is to live in harmony with reason, reality, and responsibility. It means accepting your place in the world without resentment and fulfilling your role with integrity. This principle does not isolate you from life. It grounds you within it. Many people live in constant conflict with reality. They resist aging. They resent limits. They deny responsibility. This resistance creates tension. Stoicism resolves this tension by teaching alignment instead of rebellion. Epictetus believed that every human being possesses a rational faculty. This faculty allows you to reflect, choose, and act with intention. When you ignore it, you live reactively. When you honor it, you live freely. Living according to nature begins with self-awareness. You recognize your strengths and limitations. You understand that you are neither invincible nor powerless. This balanced self-view prevents arrogance and despair. The Stoic does not demand perfection from himself. He demands honesty. He accepts that mistakes are part of learning. He corrects rather than condemns. This principle also requires acceptance of natural cycles, growth and decline, success and loss, energy and fatigue. Just as seasons change, human experience shifts. Resisting these cycles creates suffering. Accepting them creates flow. Epictetus taught that peace comes from cooperating with the order of life rather than fighting it. When you align with reality, effort becomes effective. Living according to nature also means cultivating virtue. Stoicism defines virtue as wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. These are not abstract ideals, they are practical guides. Wisdom allows you to see clearly. Courage allows you to act despite fear. Justice ensures fairness in action. Self-control maintains balance. Together, they form character. The Stoic does not pursue pleasure as a primary aim. Pleasure is unstable. He pursues virtue, which produces stability. Pleasure may follow, but it is not required. This does not mean rejecting enjoyment. It means refusing dependence on it. The Stoic enjoys life without clinging to outcomes. Living according to nature also means recognizing social responsibility. Human beings are not solitary creatures. We are connected. Our actions affect others. Stoicism teaches contribution without attachment to recognition. Epictetus emphasized acting rightly regardless of reward. When you act from principle, external validation becomes unnecessary. This shield also protects against ego. Ego seeks superiority. Nature teaches equality. Every person struggles. Every person faces limits. Recognizing this fosters humility. Humility strengthens inner peace. It removes comparison. It reduces resentment. Living according to nature also includes care for the body, not obsession, but respect. The body is a tool, not an identity. Maintaining it supports reason. The Stoic avoids excess. Excess weakens discipline. Balance preserves strength. As this shield strengthens, life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. Decisions align naturally with values. Conflict reduces internally. At this stage, the Stoic shields form a complete structure. You control what is yours. You anchor yourself to purpose. You guard your mind. You transform offense. You dissolve fear and shame. You prepare for hardship. You build inner strength. You master your reaction. You accept reality. And finally, you live according to nature. Together, these shields create an inner fortress. Life still challenges you, but it no longer overwhelms you. You feel steadier, calmer, more deliberate. This does not happen overnight. Stoicism is a practice, a discipline, a lifelong training. Epictetus never promised comfort. He promised freedom. Freedom from emotional slavery. Freedom from reactivity. Freedom from dependence on external conditions. This freedom is earned through consistency. Some days you will fail. You will react. You will resist. You will forget. Stoicism does not condemn failure. It instructs correction. Each return to discipline strengthens character. Over time, the mind becomes ordered, not rigid but resilient, not cold but composed. You become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to destabilize. This is not isolation. It is independence. You still care, you still feel, but you are no longer ruled. This is what it means to be untouchable, not because nothing affects you, but because nothing controls you. External chaos may continue, but internally you remain anchored. This is the Stoic path. If this journey has helped you, reflect on it. Revisit these principles, practice them daily. And if you want to continue strengthening your mind, explore the next video recommended on your screen. Subscribe to remain on this path. Stay disciplined, stay grounded, and continue building inner freedom.